Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things it may bring. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. One more time, family. Listen, let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things it may bring. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about. All right now. Peace, power, and prosperity to my beautiful family. It is Metaphysical Ordained Minister Corbin reporting live. I want to give a shout out to the beautiful queens, the sisters and goddesses, Salt and Pepper, Spinderella. Much respect to you ladies. As you can see the title, this is going to be a life-changing video. You are my brothers and sisters of Christ. You have to understand the power of who you are. And I promise you, after we are done this presentation, you're going to understand a lot more. Now listen, you may hear the grass cutter in the back. It is what it is, but I promise you I'm going to speak loud enough that you can hear this wonderful this jewel, this gem that we're all about to be blessed with. I am here by way of the cosmic Christ, the cosmic consciousness that is now descending on the chosen ones. Who are the chosen ones? The ones that always kept Christ in the heart. The ones that opened that door when Christ knocked. So as you hear that grass cutter, know that as soon as I start this presentation, you won't hear that grass cutter no more. Peace, power, and prosperity to my beautiful family. Welcome to the Cosmic Christ University, the home of the esoteric and metaphysical knowledge. You see the title, Sexuality and Divinity. For a lot of you who went church, sex was one of those things you didn't talk about. Sex is one of those things in church that was rarely discussed. And if it was discussed in church, it was almost like an attack on somebody. No matter what your sex is. If you came in church dressed a certain way, you were getting attacked for it. It has something to do with sexuality. If only the churches understood the true esoteric and Eastern philosophic way that the importance of sex. You're going to learn in this presentation this evening how important a role sex plays in your life. And some of you, because you went church your whole life, was restricted from those blessings. So when certain things about your personal growth, and I do mean your personal development, because the lack of what you knew about your body and the true essence of sex, you were suppressed and repressed. Not going to tear you on too long, family. I'm going to let the book do the rest. But this is going to be a mature video, and I'm asking for a mature audience. But at the same time, we're going to have a lot of great laughs. There may be some tears. But understand, I am here by way of the Christ consciousness that is now descending upon this planet. There's a lot of us out here. I just want to say this before I go into my presentation. I remember when I was a kid, and it's so, this is why I say you guys are my brothers and sisters, I mean it. I remember as a kid on my past life visions, as dim as they were, being a student in my spiritual realm, amongst other students, we're sitting around and we have a divine teacher. Mine may have been Edgar Casey. It was a lot more of them, I'm sure. But what I'm saying is, we were students in the spiritual realm. Now we are teachers in this physical realm. I love you all. And you always have a place in the Cosmic Christ University. Family, are you ready? I love you all. This is going to be a very serious, amazing video. Understand, I'm going to be with you the whole way. I love you all. This is going to be an amazing presentation. Are you ready? I'm going to get one more sip of water before I go in, because this is going to be like an hour presentation, at least. And thank you for the ones with the patience who can watch the whole thing in entirety. Here we go. Here we go. Sex and sexuality are without a doubt the least understood and most often misinterpreted aspects of human consciousness. And because of our inability to comprehend the true essence, they have become divorced from the core of our being, from which ensues the absurd confusion and guilt which so often go hand in hand with the notion of sex in our Western society. Once again, it brings me back to church and Orthodox religion. Sex in its essence was nothing that was never discussed. So when you hear these controversial or when you hear these terrific and horrifying things going on behind the church, you do have to understand it's because of people who themselves who preach the word of Christ but not yet understand the wholeness of the cosmic Christ. They were only given a piece of pie. They weren't given the mystic part of Christ. You cannot have spirituality and not have an experience with sexuality. This is what this presentation about before I even go in. And you who watch this video know I'm about to go in. I'm going to say this before I go in. You cannot experience spirituality without experiencing sexuality. Are you ready, my beautiful people? I love you. You are my brothers and sisters of Christ. We are here in the quantum world. Welcome to the Aquarian Age. Sex and sexuality are without a doubt the least understood and most often misinterpreted aspects of human consciousness. And because of our inability to comprehend the true essence, their true essence, they have become divorced from the core of our being, from which ensues the absurd confusion and guilt which so often go hand in hand with the notion of sex in our Western society. Let's keep continuing. I wish to make quite clear, the author says, at the beginning of this chapter, that sex as an expression of love, and I'm not merely talking about the narrow idea of monogamous love, which our culture seems to value so highly, the author says, is one of the highest forms of which unity can be achieved upon this earthly plane of ours. Talking about sex as an expression of love. For it is an act of conscious union between two life forces. I told you this was going to be a powerful presentation. Now receive your power. I'm not done. To understand the depth, D-E-P-T-H, of this, we must get over the ridiculous. The author says ridiculous. You must now know that it's ridiculous as well. To understand the depth of this, we must get over the ridiculous notion that sex is merely a means of procreation. Listen to this, my beautiful people. When we were still bound within our animal nature, procreation was no doubt the fundamental driving force of sexual union, with the female becoming sexually receptive only at certain specific times, and the sexual act being a somewhat perimetry, and I want to make sure I put respect on that name, perimetry, and that's spelled P-E-R-E-M-P-T-O-R-Y. And I'm going to read that again. With the female becoming sexually receptive only at certain specific times, and the sexual act being a somewhat premonitory, and that means, if you Google that word, P-E-R-E-M-P-T-O-R-Y, that word almost means like force. Like the woman only at specific times was about that sex life. And sometimes when she was, it wasn't even on her own accord. She was forced. So that word means like forced to do something under your will. Let's keep reading. I told you it's going to be one of those presentations. We're doing all angles and all sides, and people will be healed in this video this evening. However, believe it or not, we are no longer bound within this animal nature. Let me read that again. However, believe it or not, we are no longer bound within this animal nature. We are now creatures of consciousness who have the ability to choose when and how we have sex. Ladies, men as well, ladies, let me read this again. However, believe it or not, we are no longer bound within this animal nature. We are now creatures of consciousness who have the ability to choose when and how we have sex. So for my beautiful sisters, you have the power. Do not let the government tell you what you can and what you can't do with your body. We all, not just women, not just me too, but us too. We are all unified. The problem is we want to separate each other, but God, the true God, the essence of who we are within is about unity, not separating the male from the female and causing a war against the male and the female. Ladies, we are coming together with you in this. I promise you, I'm a divine feminine son. My mother is the divine mother, the cosmic mother, the one that you know as Sophia. I am a part of your union, but we're not going to make this a war against the men. I understand that your time as your pendulum is about to swing. So have mercy when that power returns to you. Let's keep on going. However, believe it or not, we are no longer bound within this animal nature. We are now creatures of consciousness who have the ability to choose when and how we have sex. We are physical beings. We are emotional beings. We are mental beings. We are spiritual beings. And that felt so good, I just want to say it again. We are physical beings. We are emotional beings. We are mental beings. We are spiritual beings. And sex is an expression of all of these aspects of our being. If we deny that sex has anything to do with the expansion of consciousness by imposing limits upon the expression of our sexual nature, we are judging and therefore cutting ourselves off from an essential part of our human condition. If you like this presentation already at 12 minutes, hit the like button. You tell a friend to tune in. You subscribe. This is the Cosmic Christ University. This is a university you never seen in this realm, but one that is in the cosmic realm. I am the divine son, here to let you know that you are greater. That is my mission. Look up to him in the pearl, then you'll find me there. I'm going to read that again. The power is yours. I'm not trying to sound like Captain Planet. You guys should do a Captain Planet movie out there, Marvel. Whoever, DC, I would love to see a Captain Planet movie. Let me hit the like button if you would love to see a Captain Planet movie. That would be awesome, I think. Because them elements, think about it, water, power, earth, wind, water, the elements. This is metaphysics. This is nature. So I would love to see a Captain Planet movie. Just saying. All right, let's go back in. I'm going to read that part again, family. However, believe it or not, my family, we are no longer bound within this animal nature. We are now creatures of consciousness who have the ability to choose when and how we have sex. We are physical beings. We are emotional beings. We are mental beings. We are spiritual beings. And sex is an expression of all these aspects with all these aspects of our being. If we deny that sex has anything to do with the expansion of consciousness by imposing limits upon the expression of our sexual nature, then family, we are judging and therefore cutting ourselves off from an essential part of our human condition. Do understand that at 14 minutes. Let's continue. And how y'all doing out there? Y'all loving this? Hit the like button if you do. I'm not going to hold too much time up. If we learn to trust the elemental powers within our sexual energy, let's read that again. If we learn to trust the elemental powers which our sexual energies represents, I'm going to read that again. If we, family. Learn to trust the elemental powers which our sexual energy represents. You up here bumping the grind, and you thinking that's it. You thinking you just getting and that's it, but it's more to it. You can harness healing powers. You can heal yourself and your partner if you really about that love making and sexual energy. It's a sex magic. It's a magic to sex, is what I'm saying. If we learn to trust the elemental powers which our sexual energies represents, we are eventually able to grasp the immense part it has to play in our personal growth. Think about the people who were in church their whole life and told, you better not even think about no sex. I don't care if you're 34 or not. And it's real. People's minds are really that locked. Religion really got people in a chokehold. Let's keep on going. If we learn to trust the elemental powers which our sexual energy represents, we are eventually able to grasp the immense part it has to play in our personal growth. As a guide towards finding balance on the very highest plane between every aspect of our being. The author says in the first part of this book, and like I said, I'm giving you some chapters, each chapter of this book. I think this video right here is going to jumpstart amazing Cosmic Christ University teaching for my beautiful brothers and sisters. Once again, in the first part of this book, we have seen how sex has been perceived as an elemental energy within each individual. I'm going to read that again. In the first part of this book, we have seen how sex has been perceived as an elemental energy within each individual, which cannot readily be controlled and therefore represents a threat to the order of the group or of society. I'm going to read that again because now you're starting to understand some stuff. It's about to get real now. It's about to get real now. In the first part of this book, we have seen how sex has been perceived as an elemental energy. Listen. Within each individual, which cannot readily be controlled. What? Minister Corbin. In the first part of this book, we have seen how sex has been perceived as an elemental energy within each individual, which cannot readily be controlled and therefore represents a threat to the order of the group or of society. In former civilizations, as in many so-called primitive societies today, this energy was brought into balance with the community through ancient puberty rites. In more modern times, the control has become more psychological and repression of boundless sexual energy has been opposed in moral terms, most blatantly by the principal Western religions through their division of body, mind, and spirit. I'm going to cut the AC on. It is what it is. At this point in the presentation, we're about to hit hard into religious folks. To my people who go to church, and you always wonder why sex could not be talked about, why it was always looked upon, as evil, you are now about to get the backdrop of why your church people, and I have no shade against them, but they knew this time was coming where the true mystic Christ was going to arise and let the people know the truth. So should be no slight upon my name, upon the name of Christ at all.
But we guarantee craftsmanship that lasts.
We sure do. Now I want you to think about all the people who went to church and the people that grew up in church, and this is no slight against them, who had their sexuality repressed, and think about not all of them, but a lot of their outcome when they came out to church into their sexuality. I'll say that one more time before I go back into the presentation. I say everything with love and respect, but with truth. Think about most of the people who grew up in church, most of the kids and people who grew up in church who had their sexuality repressed. Now look at them after they came out of the church when it came to their sexuality, and you see the results of repression. And that is no shade against any of my brothers and sisters at all. But truth is truth. And let's go back into the presentation at hand. It's starting to get a lot cooler in here now, so it's really going to be a great presentation. Can you guys still hear me with the AC on? Yes? Perfect. In the first part of this book, we have seen how sex has been perceived as an elemental energy within each individual, which cannot really be controlled and therefore represents a threat to the order of the group or of society. See, in former civilizations, as in many so-called primitive societies today, this energy was brought into balance with the community through ancient puberty rites. You guys know this. You've seen tribals who went through certain, they still do. Shout out to the Zulu tribe. Shout out to the Hopis. Shout out to all the ancient tribes. The Doggone tribe, they all do the same puberty rituals, which involve sexual energy. Let's keep reading. In modern times, the control has become more psychological and repression of balanced sexual energies. Excuse me, let me read that again, make sure I'm reading it in correct form. In more modern times, my family, in more modern times, the control has become more psychological and repression of balanced sexual energy has been imposed in moral terms, most blatantly by the principal Western religion through their division of mind, body, and spirit. And if you don't know what Western religion is, that is your Orthodox Christians. That is your Orthodox religion, whatever it is, it's Orthodox. That is the ones that just gave you the canonical Gospels and not the non-canonicals. That's the ones that give you mostly Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. The ones that tell you to praise somebody outside of you, but not doing what Christ himself told you to do, is which praise the true God within you. So that's what it is. I'm going to read that small part again. In more modern times, like today, the control has become more psychological, more of a mental FUCK, and repression of boundless sexual energy has been imposed in moral terms, most blatantly by the principal Western religion. If you go to church, Baptist, whatever this you is, Baptist, that you are Western, a part of Western religion, who have suppressed you and held you back from your pure sexual energy. Let's keep on going. In moral terms, most blatantly by the principal Western religious through their division of mind, body, and spirit. They have divided you from the spirit and the mind, got you working all day just thinking you're the body. Let's keep on going. In my experience, the author says, in my experience, and by a raise of hands, don't you worry, I can see those hands. But this is class participation. I got a question to ask you guys. This is what the author says, and I want to know if you guys agree. The author says, in my experience, the most powerful spiritual teachers I have met of my own generation, whether male or female, are all people who have a tremendously powerful sexual drive. How many of you out there agree with the author? But I can see the hands. Don't worry. I just want to see you raise your hands. Do you agree or do you disagree? I can see your hands. Okay. A lot of people, all right. A lot of people agree. I'll read that part again. The author says, in my experience, the most powerful spiritual teachers I have met of my own generation, the author says, whether male or female, are all people who have, the author, he put two of these words together. Tremendously powerful. I mean, G. Willikers, Batman. Who have tremendously powerful sexual drive. They are people who have not suppressed this drive, but have been aware of its power on many different levels. Is that you watching? Do you have a powerful sex drive? Is that what makes you a great spiritual teacher? Because you have a strong sexual drive and you're not afraid to go to the places where people are afraid to go? This is what type of conversation we're having as quantum world, Aquarian age, divine Christ energy people. See, they told you Christ was in the wilderness battling demons, battling the Satan. You don't know what he was battling. Some of you may know because you deal with the esoteric, but you don't know. This goes deep. And if you're not ready to understand this book or get a little bit, because I haven't even cracked the surface yet. I'm going to go all the way in this book. I'm not going to do a part 2. Let's do it all in one video so we can learn in entirety. So let's keep on going. In my experience, the most powerful spiritual teachers I have met of my own generation, whether male or female, are all people who have a tremendously powerful sexual drive. They are people who have not suppressed this drive, but have been aware of its power on many different levels, and have used it quite subconsciously at first to delve deeply into the hidden emotional, mental, and spiritual realms of their being. These have often been people who in their younger years underwent an emotional roller coaster ride, but whose natural inclination to explore any experience opened up a wealth of inner knowledge which could not otherwise been attained. You guys better hit the like button, because some of you, your sexual energy is everywhere. And I do mean everywhere. It's not just on this side of the fence. Hell, it's not even on this side of the fence. It's everywhere. You have been cursed and you have been dehumanized for this sexual energy. But what I am saying, my beautiful people, is it's not your fault. Hell, it's not even the people who's condemning you fault. The fault really comes in that understand that karma is us dealing with the things that our ancestors and people in the past have did. And the stuff that we do now, future generations will have to deal with the same thing. That's why we got to be mindful as a people and come together as a unified consciousness and not let these so-called people in power win. But anyway, back to what I was saying. And sometimes you guys got to remind me what I'm saying because I'm going on so many subjects. But dealing with karma, when you go to churches or whatnot, and when you've been going to these churches, they say, "Oh, you're this, and you know, your sexuality is this. You're gay, and so you're not going along with Christ. You're whatever this. You have been condemned." But what people especially don't understand is that what the people have done back in the past civilizations is now causing this karma. So you don't know your true sexuality because it's been so suppressed by people who didn't know their own. If you watch my video I did, Christianity versus homosexuality, that's a part 1 that going about King James and what King James really was about. And I haven't even gone into part 2 about the important roles that gay people played in the Bible and the true name of the gays back then. It wasn't gays, it was the eunuchs, or it's EUNACH, and they were everywhere. And I'm going to give you in part 2 what Christ really said about gay people, and it wasn't what you think about homosexualities and whatever you want to name that. They were around. Even King Solomon rode with a eunuch or a gay person. So at the end of the day, we have to understand that we as people cannot be judging each other because we are one. So for all my family, if you're in that lifestyle, the LGBTQ plus whatever, people on our side, the heterosexual side, people on this side that goes whatever way, stop judging each other. We are all family. This is what this book is teaching you. You don't know about sexuality because the ones they taught you didn't know. So you can't be so judged to quick the next person on their sexual energy because everybody is about to relearn about everything coming real soon. Oh, you understand what I'm saying? Good. So let's go back. I'm going to read that one more time so we're all in one accord. In my experience, the most powerful spiritual teachers I have met of my own generation, whether male or female, are all people who have tremendously powerful sexual drive. They are people who have not suppressed this drive, but have been aware of its power on many different levels, and have used it quite subconsciously at first to delve deeply into the hidden emotional, mental, and spiritual realms of their being. These have often been people who in their younger years underwent an emotional roller coaster ride, but whose natural inclination to explore any experience opened up a wealth of inner knowledge which could not otherwise have been attained. No longer condemn yourself for who you are. Christ loves you. Love yourself. That's all that matters. Let's keep on going. For our sexual energy, listen, for our sexual energy is also our life force, or what is referred to in the East as Kundalini. Raise your hands if you have ever, I can see them. Darn it, I can see your hands. Raise them. How many of you have ever heard of the Kundalini? Some of you live by the Kundalini life force, don't you? Of course you do. So I'm going to about to be giving the true definition of what the Kundalini is. I know some of you know about the Kundalini. Remember, this is the Cosmic Christ University. We have students in here, and we also have masters. If you're a master's, it's your job to teach the students. If you're a student, it's your job to learn, and learn with purity, and learn with a pure heart and divinity. For our sexual energy is also our life force, or what is referred to in the East as Kundalini. That is spelled Kundalini. Kundalini. And Kundalini is that earth energy which enters into our body at the base of our spine, working up through the various levels of our being, or chakras, until it rises out of our physical form through the crown chakra of the head and unites with the universal energy above. Let's read that again. Christ love you guys. I love you guys for watching this video. I love you guys for learning. This is our age now. Christ is so excited because imagine 2,000 years ago, you're telling the people at that time who had a lower consciousness, they couldn't understand really what Christ was saying. But he still was so excited because he knew 2,000 years later, where we're at now, that we would get it and we would understand it. Why shouldn't I rejoice? For our sexual energy is also our life force, or what is referred to in the East as Kundalini. That earth energy which enters into our body at the base of our spine, working up through the various levels of our being, or chakras, until it rises out of our physical form through the crown of the head. Through the crown of the head and unites with the universal energy above. If we choose to see sex as a purely physical act meant for procreation, or if we keep our attention focused on genital contact, as many men as opposed to women often do. Men. I'm a teacher. I don't discriminate. Excuse me, I'm also a man. I can't discriminate. If we choose to see sex as a purely physical act meant for procreation, or if we keep our attention focused on genital contact, that sloppy toppy, as many men as opposed to women often do, then we are limiting the creative aspect of this elemental energy and preventing it from stimulating the growth and expansion of the higher aspects of the self. Did they teach you this in church? Of course they could not, would not, and they said they should not. So I am, because I am that I am. Let's read that again. And for you learning, for you who have children, now you can properly teach this to your children, because they're not teaching our children in school. And if you expect school to raise your children, then don't get mad at the results you get from the school or anybody that's not you raising your children. Trust me, I know I have children of myself, so I wouldn't just be saying this to be saying this. Excuse me. Let's go back in. If we choose to see sex as a purely physical act meant for procreation, or if we keep our attention focused on genital contact, as many men as opposed to women often do, then we are limiting the creative aspects of this elemental energy and preventing it from stimulating the growth and expansion of the higher aspects of the self. In general, women have a better handle than men on associating sex with emotion and love. Now listen, I want to see how many people be watching my videos for real. Man or woman, woman or man, if you agree with what the author just said, hit the like button. Now, depending on how many likes I get, I'm going to see how many people, I can now see how many people actually watch my video till the end. If you agree with that statement, hit the like button. I'm going to read it again. In general, women have a better handle than men on associating sex with emotion and love. Raise your hands. I told you this is class participation. How many of y'all agree? Okay. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Okay. All right now. I'm going to read that one more time. All in together now. In general, women have a better handle than men on associating sex with emotion and love. But to see it solely in those terms is still imposing limitation. The way we perceive and even fantasize about sex has also much to teach us about many unresolved and subconscious parts of us. Are we in church now? I think we are. Are we in church now, Minister Corbin? I think we are. I'm going to read that again. The way we perceive and even fantasize about sex has also much to teach us about many unresolved and subconscious parts of us, particularly surrounding issues of power, self-worth, and of course, not forgetting the blending of the male and the female within ourselves as individual entities. I encourage anybody to research one of my teachers, Carl Jung, J-U-N-G, Carl Jung, J-U-N-G, Carl Jung, J-U-N-G, and study upon the anima and animus. For those who know the sign of the yin and the yang, you know that the yin and the yang is a circle. One side is white, one side is black. But if you notice, and you can Google this now or after the presentation, that there's a little small dots on each side. And each small dot is the opposite color of the whole on each side. That represents the anima and the animus. That means that every man and every woman on this planet, every man has a divine feminine within him, and every woman has a divine masculine. At least 4 or more divine masculines within themselves. Don't take my word for it. Research the late great Dr. Carl Jung, J-U-N-G, and research anima and animus. And if it's your first time researching anima and animus, spelled A-N-I-M-A and A-N-I-M-A-S. Leave a comment. Let me know what you discovered. Back to the presentation. I'm going to make that up. Okay. Back to the presentation. Sex is spirituality. What did I say in the beginning of this video? Sex is spirituality. Imagine you who went to church all your life and you were talking about everything in the book, but one thing that was off the books, I've been making this water last like I'm in the desert with Moses for 40 days and 40 nights. And it works. Imagine growing up in church once again, and I want to really give you the picture and understand how much sex plays a role, and how much are people who are really still in tune, still locked in till this day to Orthodox teaching. The people who still, and I know some of you are watching, and I love you, but still are going to church and being taught that you are waiting for a God to come out the sky and do a soul train line and start blessing people and call them home. And not knowing that Christ, my brother, was a mystic teacher. So you would have to go within yourself to get the teachings, because in the Bible, 98% of it was allegory and parables and figures of speeches. Christ says that in multiple scriptures. Sex is spirituality. If you agree with me, hit the like button, subscribe. Sex is spirituality. Let's keep on going, because like I said, let me see how many pages I got left to determine if I got to do a part 2. I don't know, guys. We might have to do a part 2. We might have to do a part 2. Let's see. I'm going to keep on going, though. Sex is an expression of the passion of life. Oh, I'm skipping. I'm skipping. Sex is spirituality. If you believe that you can set out on the spiritual path in this age without confronting and experience your sexual nature, you are very much mistaken. Woo! Let me read that again. Sex. Let's talk about sex. Sex is spirituality. If you, watching, believe that you can set out on the spiritual path in this age without confronting and experiencing your sexual nature, you are very much mistaken. For you watching, there may have been a time when it was suitable for monks or nuns to go into a monastery and deny their sexual nature in order to focus more clearly on other aspects of their being. But, and that's a big but, that time is over. So if you know some nuns who really want some monks who are really been after that badonkadonk, let them know this is the great time to do that. Let me keep on going. Sex is spirituality. If you believe that you can set out on the spiritual path in this age without confronting and experiencing your sexual nature, you are very much mistaken. There may have been a time when it was suitable for monks or nuns to go into a monastery and deny their sexual nature in order to focus more clearly on other aspects of their being, but that time is over. This is the coming age of unity, and one can therefore not deny or ignore any aspects of one being. Gosh, I'm hoping y'all liking this video, this presentation, this blessing, this healing. Sex is an expression of the passion of life. Woo! Might be a Facebook post tonight. Sex is an expression of the passion of life, not the mere wild passion that the one associates with a hot sexual experience, not just that, but the passionate expression of individual freedom and energy which has been granted to us in the physical form. I feel like I'm making an R&B song up in here. God, let me say that again. I might have to put some R&B music behind this. Sex is an expression of the passion of life, not the mere wild passion that one associates with a hot sexual experience, but the passionate expression of individual freedom and energy which has been granted to us in the physical form. This passion is the unfettered enthusiasm which drives us forward to act, create, and to do things which we feel strongly from the core of our beings. It is taking the gift of free will and living life fully, taking it by the scruff of the neck, exploring new territory, and not caring one iota, that's spelled IOTA, about what other people think. I kind of want to read that part with more passion. Do you mind? I did ask at the beginning for a mature audience. Sex is an expression of the passion of life, not the mere wild passion that one associates with a high sexual experience, but the passion expression of the individual freedom and energy which has been granted to us in this physical form. This passion this passion is the unfeathered enthusiasm which drives us forward to create and do things in which we feel strongly. From the core of our beings, it is taking the gift of free will and living life fully, taking it by the scruff of the neck, exploring new territory and not caring one iota, one F-U-C-K about what other people think. Are you guys going to be able to handle that energy coming? Especially you, the ones that have been in church and said, don't do this, you can't be this, you can't be this, don't do that, don't be that way. And you seeing people that have left the churches and now they becoming lesbians, they're gay, they're bisexual, they're, what's the one I heard before? Pansexual. I heard another one. There's a bunch of sexuals. Y'all know them. And I say that with respect to each one of y'all. But what I'm saying is, imagine the churches suppressing and repressing all this energy, whether they knew or didn't know. But now you can't repress this knowledge no more. It's been almost like boil. You know how they say diamonds pressure either builds diamonds or builds pressure, either it makes diamonds or build pressure. Now that pressure from the pipes have busted, and you've been suppressing all these people's energy. They came out of church, where they was. They came out the whatever. And you're going to see more and more of that, is what this is saying, whether you like it or not. Let's see where we at with this. It is an expression of the joy of life which comes from the heart and which is not bound by oughts and shoulds. Let me read that again. It is an expression of the joy of life which comes from the heart and which is not bound by oughts and shoulds and other means of control which have been passed down over the centuries. You know darn well your preachers would not read nothing like this to you guys. It is no wonder that those hierarchies of authority soon saw that sexual energies was something to be suppressed. I might just have to do a part two. I am going to do a part two, because to give you all this at one swoop, I don't think it would be fair. I think that based off the information that I'm giving my brothers and sisters now, that should be something that you guys sleep on. And then tomorrow we pick back up at a time, or if not tomorrow, another day. But at least give you guys time and give the people time to tune in and to come into the Cosmic Christ University and really home into this knowledge, because this knowledge is yours now. This knowledge is yours now. For those who went to church and didn't get this knowledge, for a lot of us didn't get this knowledge. Not just for the ones that go to church, but everybody. Because you have been having people who don't know their own sexual energy. You got pastors who've been preaching to you. Let's be honest. You got pastors on Sundays, and some of you going to church this weekend, who are telling you what you doing wrong. And don't worry, that's just letting me know that the car is about to cut off. It cuts off at a certain time to save the battery. You probably got one car with that, but anyway. But a lot of you go to church on Sundays, and you have preachers and reverends and bishops and popes that tell you the shoulds and the shouldn'ts, the wills and the won'ts, what you should and shouldn't be doing. Meanwhile, they're in that congregation telling you that, but having sexual thoughts themselves. And you don't have many. That's just the car cutting off. You don't have many brave pastors, ministers, and anybody of that authority to be honest with you on that. Let's be honest on that topic. You got so many preachers. Oh, you out there and doing bad. You smoking that weed and drinking that drink and loving them there and loving them there. But while they're telling you what you're doing wrong, in their mind, they're still having these sexual fantasies. That's why when they get caught, they're getting exposed big time. Because they're telling you this like they don't have these same type of fantasies and same type of thoughts. They do. Everybody does. That's a part of being a part of the carnal mind. That's why God always telling you about tithing. It's not about giving money in the church. Tithing is about you got 10% of your mind. 90% of it is subconscious. You give that 10% to God, then you are one with God. That's what tithing is really about. They're teaching you that's about money, and that's why you see the falling of the churches, the downfall of the churches. But let me wrap this up, because I'm going to do it part 2. And if you like this, please hit the like button. Don't worry, part 2 is coming, and part 2 is going to be a lot heavier. If you thought this was heavy, you heard nothing yet. So let's wrap this up, and I'm going to give you at least 10 more minutes. How about that? It is no wonder that those hierarchies, that means the ones in the church, the ones in the government, it is no wonder that those hierarchies of authority soon saw that sexual energy was something to be suppressed. Because they clearly understood that the physical side of free sexual expression was just part of the story. Think about the hippies in the 70s. I know that some of y'all were thinking about. Let me read that again. It is no wonder that those hierarchies, remember, hierarchies are the people in religion. Religion and the government work hand to hand. I don't care what you thought. They work hand to hand like the pharmacies and the doctors to screw the people's mind over. It is no wonder that those hierarchies of authority soon saw that sexual energy was something to be suppressed, because they clearly understood that the physical side of free sexual expression was just part of the story. They knew, listen, I was wondering if they knew, but some of them knew. They knew that this powerful energy was all to do with the power and freedom of the individual to break down boundaries and to explore the depth of consciousness. And they knew that this was the very greatest threat to their own externally imposed power and control. If you are reading this, you are getting your power back. But what are you going to do with your power? Some of you are still going to church. You got women who are so eager to become preachers, to become pastors, but in Divinity alone, the whole Bible, all they do is disrespect a woman. A woman should be cleansed of her issues. A woman should be put in a room until she is cleansed of her issue. That's in the Bible. Come on now. Talking about your menstrual cycle, of course. It is no wonder that those hierarchies of authority soon saw that sexual energy was something to be suppressed, because they clearly understood that the physical side of free sexual expression was just part of the story. They knew that this powerful energy was all to do with the power and freedom of the individual to break down boundaries and to explore the depth of consciousness. And they knew that this was the very greatest threat to their own externally imposed power and control. We therefore now find ourselves in a situation where all but a few people have assumed the morality, Let me read that again. I want to make sure I put some respect on this. We therefore now find ourselves, we as a people, now find ourselves in a situation where all but a few people have assumed the morality, which based on the fear of the elemental energy. It has become completely ingrained in Western mentality, that means US around here, that sex is something which should be performed within pre-established limits, to the extent that it is a rare person who will even begin to understand the true power of our sexual nature. If you deny this truth, it don't even matter. Your kids, and as you look at the new generation of kids, they're everywhere with their sexual energy. Some of us as parents, we don't understand that. Some of you would never understand it. You would have to go back into Tantra, Tantra, Eastern philosophies. Remember, some of us, all we know is the U.S., the United States of America, and some of you would never travel outside there. I wish you nothing but the best, but some of you are stubborn. Shoot, if God wanted me to fly, he would give me wings. Okay, well, keep on waiting for your wings. Keep on waiting. At the end of the day, the Eastern philosophy, they knew all this about the inner teachings of Christ. The people who knew your powers brought you over here So you wouldn't know truly who you are, because they knew it was going to be a time where we're in now that we were going to wake up and their repression and suppression wasn't going to work anymore. But to wrap this up, in many individuals, I have seen how, I want to make sure I'm skipping nothing. I'm going to just read that again so I ain't skipping nothing at all. Okay, here we go. Okay, excuse me. We therefore now find ourselves in a situation where all but a few people have assumed the morality which is based on the fear of this elemental energy. It has become completely ingrained in our Western mentality that sex is something which should be performed within pre-established limits, to the extent that it is a rare person who would even begin to understand the true power of our sexual nature. We all know that the 60s witnessed a dramatic breaking down of these boundaries, but even then, this spontaneous burst of freedom was confined to a group who were judged as hippies and who were not allowed to be a permanent threat to the mainstream. How many hippies out there who grew up in the 60s? I'm going to read that again for my hippies who understand this. Let's read that again. And we're almost out of here. We all know that the 60s witnessed, that means the 1960s, we all noticed that the 60s witnessed a dramatic breaking down of these boundaries. But even then, this spontaneous burst of freedom, which confined to a group who were judged as hippies, quote unquote, and who were not allowed to be a permanent threat to the mainstream, where the veneer of marriage and monogamy still had to be maintained. For the conforming, remember that word I told you about? That's what happened. We conformed. For the conforming majority, it was still all right for a man to have his bit on the side, his side piece, as long as he kept it quiet. Whereas a woman who exhibited a powerful sexual energy would be judged as a nymphomaniac. Part 2 is going to be crazy. I'm going to read that part again. We all know that in the 60s, the 1960s witnessed a dramatic breaking down of these boundaries, but even then, this spontaneous burst of freedom was confined to a group who were judged as hippies and who were not allowed to be a permanent threat to the mainstream, where the veneer of marriage and monogamy still had to be maintained for the conforming majority. It was still all right for a man to have his bit on the side, his side piece, as long as he kept it quiet, whereas a woman who exhibited a powerful sexual energy would be judged as a nymphomaniac, as if expression of sexual energy was the right of men alone. This is a man, this is an author, so don't think this is a woman bashing men. This is Nick Banforth. I'm pretty sure, I'm not saying it could be a woman, but I'm pretty sure it's a man. And we'll go deeper on part 2 on the author. Over the past few millenniums, and I'm probably going to end about 3 more minutes. Over the past few millennium, male sexual dominance has mirrored the psychological and social male dominance within our society. Once again, over the past few millennium, male sexual dominance has mirrored the psychological and social male dominance within our society. To the extent that however strong the feminist movement may be, woman has not to this day been able to express the true power of her sexual energy. As this date, I think we're in October 8th, 2024, on the verge of maybe having a female president, Kamala Harris, as I'm doing this presentation. So this is going to be part 2 is going to be even more interesting. So let's read that again. Over the past few millennium, male sexual dominance has mirrored the psychological and social male dominance within our society, to the extent that however strong the feminist movement may be, women has not to this day been able to express the true power of her sexual energy. Feminism has more to do with civil and social rights than the elemental power of female sexuality. almost as if women are afraid that the release and acknowledgement of this raw goddess energy would recreate such primal fear. I'm going to stop there, females. Did you understand what that's... Ooh, ladies. I told you I am the sun. I've been saying this for 3 years on this social platform. Ever since I got back from Cairo, Egypt, 2019. When all this really... I've always been a student, but Egypt jump-started this. I want to read that part again for my sisters, and then I'm going to end it there. Ladies, as above, so below. I want you to look up the cow. I'm going to end this here. Ladies, men as well, of course. I want you to look up the cow goddess, Hathor, Hator. She is known as the goddess in ancient Egypt, but she is also known as the cosmic womb. Sisters, some of you play with this spiritual stuff. Some of you are just, and men as well, are just, I want to use the word. I can't think of the word right now. But some of you are just hiding behind spirituality to compensate for deeper inner issues that you don't want to deal with. Trust me. I'm a metaphysical minister. I know. I've been through this myself. So you have a chance to understand who you are. But some of you are afraid that if you go all the way in on your power, you're going to go back to the Kali Yuga days. When Kali Yuga, they sent Kali Yuga to destroy some stuff. But she was so powerful who she was. Kali Yuga was so powerful that she would start... Look up pictures of Kali Yuga, Kaliyuga, and you see that she was killing everything, almost to the point that her husband had to go under her, and she almost killed him till she realized who he was. So there's that fear, even with women, that, you know what, I'm going to dumb it down a little bit, because if I am speaking to my sisters, you are thinking, some of you, if you display all your power, that men, and not just men, but the rest of the world, is going to put you back into the witch days where they, and this is where all the fear of true woman, because the woman power is more powerful. You are the woman, as above, so below. The microcosmic, we are the microcosmic, is the microcosmic. There's the woman has a womb, we come from the universal womb. The woman has a G-spot, there is a cosmic G-spot. Do your research. So I'm gonna end it here, but I'm gonna read this again. Over the past few millennia, male sexual dominance has mirrored the psychological and social male dominance within our society, to the extent that however strong the feminist movement may be, woman has not to this day been able to express the true power of her sexual energy. Feminism has more to do with civil and social rights. Feminism has more to do with civil and social rights. Feminism has more to do with civil and social rights than the elemental powers of female sexuality. Almost as if women are afraid that the release and acknowledgement of this raw goddess energy would recreate such primeval fear within the male psyche that men would once again find a way to suppress it, along with all that has been gained for women over the past few decades. I am done. Part 2 coming soon. You got a choice to make, men and females. Cosmic Christ University. We're here.